Today, we begin our 3-round 2026 NFL mock draft. Just like the real draft, it's going to be split up into 2 days. Round 1 today, rounds 2 and 3 tomorrow. Let's jump right into this. If you guys are new, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Below my face is my board. It breaks down every player that I've graded in all 22. We're at about 289 players right now. If you want to see all of them, feel free to go over and support me on Patreon. $5 a month. On top of that, you get to see a breakdown of exactly how they are graded and get extended videos of being able to break down exactly what these players are in terms of a game grade that you guys see on the show, but not for all the players. Those are the extended videos, so go check that out, including some exclusive content that's coming up. This is based on Super Bowl odds right now, so do not get mad at me for the draft order. That is just based on what ESPN ended up putting out there a couple days ago. Let's get into this, starting out with the number 1 pick, the New Orleans Saints. They're honestly in a pretty good spot. Spencer Rattler is looking surprisingly not too shabby. And does that stop you from going after a quarterback? No. But it also is such a weak top of the draft class that it just doesn't feel like the situation where, you're really excited about moving pieces, right? There's not a Travis Hunter that can acquire 2 first-round picks and a move up. The quarterback situation certainly is going to be where you can end up taking the most upside. And of course, again, I'm going to not labor this pick too long. People are talking about, it's like, oh, Garrett Nussmeier is not worth the number 1 pick. I've been on that train for a hot minute, right? Like, I've been more of a Nuss denier than anything. Garrett has ended up moving up into my top 5 for QBs, which, that doesn't sound like anything crazy, but for me, who has been trying my best to really like Nussmeier, that's a big deal for me, is that I'm starting to see some traits that I like. And I think people overvalued and kind of overvalued his assets, undervalued his liabilities last year. And now he's finally kind of just showing a little bit more consistency, and people don't like it as much as they thought. I like it. I still see some progression. I still see the inconsistencies, but I will say that his style is a lot more consistent with what I would expect from him to go to the next level in the NFL. His father's the offensive coordinator. It just makes sense. Let's not waste too much time. Again, I mentioned at the start of the video, I'm not including Arch Manning in this. So keep that in mind as well. And number 2 for the Cleveland Browns, with 2 picks in the first round, we're not going to be trading this one. It just doesn't make very much sense. They are still a team looking for a quarterback, and I believe Lenore Sellers is the most talented player in the class. However, there is a new player on the block that I have ended up really, really liking, and you can see it on my board. I don't need to talk about it too much, but he's going to be one of these next 2 selections, and that's going to be John Mateer. There's not many players that I think deserve both position-wise, position value, as well as like talent value this selection here. But Lenore does have that potential that even John Mateer is not there yet, because he's 6'1" in the 225-pound range. We're talking about Lenore Sellers being as good of an athlete, as strong of an arm, and 6'3" in the 240 range, right? So both these guys, I think, deserve a ton of love. If you don't take Lenore's here and you take John Mateer, feel free to swap it with the next one, because these teams are just built for Lenore's, and they can be built for either Mateer or Sellers. And I think people are starting to really underrate the quarterback class. Like, people were straight up glazing it to the point where they were saying these quarterbacks are going to be, all top tier starters. And that's unfortunately statistically not the case. But I think Sellers will probably have to return for 2027. He is having a little bit of a down year right now. I want to end up seeing him get the mental part of the game down. And to be fair, playing against Vanderbilt, Vandy's just been sneakily very good. Virginia Tech, these are not easy games by any means, but I do want him, and again, ended up getting a concussion, unfortunately. That really sucks, because I wanted to see a full game of him versus Vandy, because he had some pretty bad plays in there, to see how he rebounds under that type of pressure. But I still think that you have to go after the intangibles, something that you can't replicate. People will say, what happened to AR? AR was someone who played less than a season, pretty much. I think it was 13 games since high school, and dealt with a ton of injuries. But we've seen the flashes from him as well. Like, it's just the consistency of play is just not there. Sellers as a passer is far more consistent. Anthony had garbage, and I mean garbage mechanics. That's just what happens. When you can't be consistent with your mechanics, you're not going to be that good. The Sellers is far better in that category. It's a mental part of the game that you're going to need to develop over time. The NFL will end up causing Lenore some headaches early on, but you know, you can end up also saying, well, I mean, we can apply this to Lamar Jackson as well. He was somebody that you do not find copy and paste very often. And, if you take your time and develop them in terms of with Lamar, it was a bigger project than Sellers, but Lamar was in the right situation. I would just hope that the Browns clean house and find the best quarterback developers, whether it's under Kevin O'Connell, whether it's under Sean McVay, like these quarterback factories that are just pumping out dudes. Like, just find a way. Under Steichen, even. Steichen's done a good job. I mean, Anthony Richardson, like, it sucks, but, I mean, you've seen with guys like Daniel Jones and, I mean, hell, Carson Wentz to some degree. Like, I think Carson was there during the Steichen era. But regardless, we've seen these guys end up developing their quarterbacks very well for the NFL. And just some guys click, some guys don't. At number 3 for the Jets, I ended up talking about this. I do think you can... Like, people are going to say it's crazy to talk about 5 quarterbacks in the top 10. I think there's a dark horse that's not even listed on here that we're going to have to include. And, I know it's like a weird spot because I still think Drew Aller has a potential to be a legit, like, mid to high first. But Mendoza and then Mateer. Like, Mendoza, we're seeing him for the first time versus actual talent. We have not seen it so far. So I'm going to hold off with the Mendoza glaze at the moment because I normally do go for it. Mateer's been fantastic. I mean, I ended up watching him in all 22 versus Michigan, and there's just certainly some plays where I'm like, what are you doing? But the frequency is so much less of like the what are you doing plays than he was at Washington State. And this early in, it was week 2, and he already showed a lot more comfortability. I could tell how he gets panicked. He's not used to an offensive line that works. Like, Washington State's line was absolute dog shit. So, but Mateer makes the highest level throws that you'll ever see out of college. Like, very few people on earth can end up making the throw that he can. I'm going to go after John Mateer here at number 3. If he goes number 1, I'm not going to be too surprised. At number 4 for the Giants, again, let's not waste too much time here. I'm going to go Spencer Fano. It's going to be amazing this week. So, Fanu and Lamu, amazing. Probably the best tackle duo in the entire country, right? Guys who I both have listed very high. And you guys might say, like, oh, what's up with Tomas Rimac being listed that high? He's not that good. Right now, as a tackle, he is not. He has the asterisk there as a designation for him to be dropped. Now, granted, he's only allowed 1 pressure and I believe 1 sack. So, like, technically 2 pressures total since week 1. But him as a guard at West Virginia got him up that high. I will say if there's a player with an asterisk, they're ones that are going to fall. But Fano and Lamu are going up against the best edge core of apparently. Well, arguably, I would say that at least one of the best edges in the entire country. Akeem Mesidor and Ruben Bain, I think, could be the best edge core, but Romello Height, as well as David Bailey, Texas Tech, they're facing down Utah. So one of the best in terms of the edge cores, the best in terms of the tackle core, ends up leading to fireworks. I am super happy with that. At number 5, we have the Tennessee Titans, and it's a position where I would really try to make a move down here. But it's just, there is a player here who I think is special. Like, in the top, we have our quarterbacks and we have our special players. I think the right tackle class is awful. I think the edge class has some good talents, but there isn't really the killers in this class, like Ruben Bain. Again, I was honestly debating, like, rather than Lenore Sellers, you go Ruben Bain at number 2. That's how damn good he is. And I think he is clearly in a class of his own right now, especially of that build. I love Pookie Bear Lawrence, but I mean, again, UCF has not played against anybody. We still have yet to litmus test that, but Malachi Lawrence still has over 50% block win rate. Just going to give him credit where credit's due. Ruben Bain is going to be the selection here. I'm not a big PFF stat watcher, but again, it's very, very hard to get a 90 PFF grade in general. He has it in back-to-back-to-back games. At number 6 for the Miami Dolphins, it is time for the rebuild. I mean, we could end up looking up Tua's stats and stuff, and I do think this team is way too far away for that. So I still, I would say you could end up talking about Fernando Mendoza here, but I would not go QB4 to restart your rebuild. If you're going to do it, clean house, and then end up going after best player available. For me, that's Caleb Downs. Your defense is absolute crap. And if you can end up pairing up Caleb Downs with Minka Fitzpatrick, there's a chance where you can have a strong identity on defense of having a vaunted secondary if you get a couple more pieces in there, which is technically every team on planet Earth. But I can't do that to y'all. I can't. I love Caleb Downs, and I do think that he is an absolute superstar. But at the same time, this organization does not draft safety that high, based on my recollection. I mean, Javon Holland was an early second. This is a top 10 pick. I'm going to go after a weapon. And I do think that there is not even close to competition for this. And you guys liked it the last time I did it. I could try to make a trade here. Honestly, it's not a bad idea. Hold on. That would be kind of fun. We can end up making a trade here. Well, the problem is what I'd want to do is trade down and still get Caleb Downs. For excuse me, have Caleb Downs be a team that, or a player that a team moves up for. I'm struggling. But I will say Kenyon Sadiq might even be my pick at number 7. Because there's no tight end that comes remotely close. And we're seeing back-to-back drafts, tight ends that end up being top 5 tight ends, arguably in the NFL, with Warren as well as Bowers. I don't think I could ignore this one, guys. I don't know. I want to be able to, but we're not going to. We got Kenyon Sadiq at number 6. Number 7 for the Panthers, quick one to run in. We're going Caleb Downs. Best player in the draft. Don't overthink it. Again, this is with trades, but again, there's just, when it makes sense, don't overthink it. Go after the best player available. At number 8 for the Las Vegas Raiders, offensive line looks crap for y'all. Granted, it's on the interior. I feel happy about that because we can end up putting that off to the mid rounds. Defensive interior, Thomas Booker starting. That should tell you enough. I would say you could try to wait and play the, value card. Peter Woods has not been amazing this year. I will say, I think he's a lot better than Brian Brzee when he was coming out. And at least Brzee ended up being a late first, right? It wasn't something that was extremely out of the blue. Somehow your defense has been playing well, but that doesn't mean that you end up taking your foot off the gas pedal because you can utilize lower end talent very well. Imagine what you can do with higher end talent. And so I do think I'll end up sticking to Peter Woods. Now we do still have Fernando Mendoza here and Drew Aller. There are teams like the Rams, the Colts, even that should be looking for one of these quarterbacks because there is a drop off. And then there's Dante Moore. That's the other name I want to toss in there. But that also means that if teams feel very comfortable with their current situation, there's not really a reason to move. I'm going to say that the price is not worth paying. We're going to go Peter Woods for the Raiders. Patriots at number 9. Another team that I would have said you'd have to trade with either the Panthers, which would have been a 1-pick move, or the Raiders. And the Raiders have been doing good with their defensive backs overall comparatively to what they kind of should be doing. But Kenyon Sadiq would have been my pick there for the Patriots at number 9 if this were not the case. But edge rusher, already kind of taken the guy who I feel comfortable in this range with Ruben Bain. Kenyon Sadiq, already taken. So it's not really the best place. Again, this was one where I would try to maybe shop this pick a little bit. Corner, for teams that are looking for that star corner, you could talk about the Rams, especially based on the quarterback talent available. You can end up waiting if you're the Rams and want to develop somebody else, or wait till 2027 if that's your gig. But Aller, Mendoza are the next 2 to get taken. And then Dante Moore is after that. Now, the question is, could the Rams end up going and trying to jump the Bengals for the best corner available? Because I think that's the very underrated position for the Bengals to target. At this point, it does kind of feel like that's the position that might have the talent that makes sense outside of the quarterback position. Tackle as well. But I think the value for the Rams is there. Because I do think going after the best corner, you can end up trying to play the value card and, sniping Avian Terrell. But, going after someone to be a very dominant presence is just a smart thing to do. That's just proper roster management. And for the Rams, I do think you can end up going from 88 back to 109 and you can toss in a future pick here. You can end up tossing a future 4. If you really get butthurt about the value of this trade, I mean, let's end up looking at it, right? Like you want to move it back to 128. I don't really think that it's going to be that much more. I mean, maybe we could just end up giving a third for this. We'll just do that. Let's make it simple. Let's make it easy. The Rams say, like, I want to move up to this spot. Maybe you end up tossing in something in this range if you really like feel the need to. But I just feel bad for taking one of the Rams picks. Like that's this high. Maybe we'll end up tossing in. No, we got to do 188. We'll do it. Screw it. Rams end up making a move up here. And for the price of a third round pick, being able to take the best corner in a team that definitely should be looking for the best corner, like I would take one that doesn't have injury concerns or anything like that. Mansour was my corner one coming into the year, still is my number one corner now. We go Mansour Delane there at number 9. Scroll down so you guys get to see my tied corner ones there. Number 10, we have the Cincinnati Bengals and dark horse position, that corner. I definitely think they should be looking that way, especially at 10. If you're going to be sitting here at 10, like weapon, no. Running back, no. Offensive line, yes. Like I would definitely be looking at Lamu, Tiernan at this point. Lamu might be my choice if I can't get Mansour Delane because you can end up using him as a guard if he just doesn't work out as a tackle. And this dude is just rock solid, like rock solid player. Like very hard to nitpick him outside of the fact that, there's some questions over whether he's necessarily built to be an NFL tackle. But I mean, you got to get better for Joe Burrow. I just don't care. I mean, Dalton Reisner cannot be your saving grace, and it honestly wasn't. So we're going to, since we couldn't get Mansour Delane, go after Caleb Lamu there, tackle out of Utah. At number 11 for the New England Patriots, the only tackle I would be taking here in the first, like honestly, guys, would be the one who got taken at 4 and Spencer Fano. You got to get a right tackle. The problem is there's not one that's available. I also really hope that PFF updates their stuff. I mean, it is getting a little bit laborious to the point where I'm thinking of bailing on PFF entirely for this mock draft simulator. I do think it's by far the best looking, but it's getting to the point where it's like, really, guys, like you're the number one in the industry for the draft, and you have something that is a customer product, and you're just not taking care of it. It is a little bit annoying, but all that being said, positions for the Patriots, wide receiver, I do think a tight end if Sadiq would be available. Right tackle, center's not remotely in this range. Defensive back, Dylan Thieneman, dark horse candidate. But again, this is a team that can maximize defensive talent down the board. I think they're going to maximize offense because I'm going to trust Vrabel's eyes on the defense to find the guys that he loves. And so I am going to go best player available. Some people don't like when I go Jordan Tyson, but I really like it. I think the fit is absolutely there. He's just a reliable receiver overall. Everyone knows the ball's going to Jordan Tyson, and he still ends up balling out. So just one of the best players that I've studied at the wide receiver position in general. All right, at number 12, we have the Indianapolis Colts. And, I just think that at this point, you're sitting there at number 12. It's worth taking the shot on a quarterback. And I'm just going to go Fernando Mendoza, quarterback out of Indiana. Call it quits. Be happy. I mean, Daniel Indiana Jones, he's been doing a fantastic job. But Mendoza has the youth. You don't want to pay Daniel Jones $40 million a year. If he continues playing like this every single game, different story, right? But again, I'm not buying in on this is the every single game Daniel Jones that you're going to get. We kind of bought into that before he got a $40 million contract, and that did not really work out. At number 13 for the Dallas Cowboys, would love to go edge here, and you technically can go Keldrick Falk. I'm going to take a different stance, and I haven't done this one before because I always go defensive interior like Caleb Banks later in the first, but he's been dealing with some big injury bugs that just have not given him the opportunity to show the way that he should. I'm looking at Christian Miller here, who I have as a top 10 player on my board. Now, I think if you ended up, because Flus doesn't draft, or like Flus is not like a first round safety kind of guy, a little bit more focused on defense over safety, if I'm not mistaken. Granted, Brisker was a second, but let me know what you guys think about that. I love Dylan Thieneman. I'm going to go after another defensive interior here because you just need to retool the line. That's the goal. And Christian Miller is by far my best available. He is somebody who has been very, very consistently a headache, makes big plays, 6'4", and he ends up being able to play anywhere. And you can end up pairing him up with Kenny Clark and maximize the value of Kenny Clark as well by allowing him to mentor actually talented players on your defensive front. At number 14 for the Cleveland Browns, or he drafted Lenore Sellers. Now, we could have ended up going after, Ruben Bain and gone after Drew Aller here if we wanted to, or Mendoza here. Would be intriguing to see how that would end up working out. And maybe we'll try that one of these days. But, sitting here at 14, I do think we should try to make some moves. The problem is there's not many teams that are looking for their quarterback at the moment, because Drew Aller would be the player that would be the hot commodity. Everybody else kind of feels like you can end up waiting if you want to. And unfortunately, I do think that's the case here. So if I'm the Cleveland Browns, I'm looking at offensive line, and I do see a big drop off after Tiernan and World. World, we'll see how they end up doing. Again, ended up actually having a solid enough game versus no pressures allowed versus Northwestern. Caleb Tiernan, the exact same versus Oregon. I do think with Tiernan, especially since you have Lenoris, who's 6'3", and he's not like a 6'2", if I'm not mistaken. It's like a full 6'3", if not almost 6'4". You can end up dealing with him at guard if you have to. If his arm just does not work, I would end up saying that. With World, there's a little bit more of a learning curve. So I'm going to go after a Caleb Tiernan tackle out of Northwestern. At number 15 for the Seattle Seahawks, a lot of routes you can go. Keldrick Falk would be fun because you can end up utilizing him on the inside or the out. I know that you guys absolutely value flexibility in your defense there in Seattle. But I would say offensive interior, it's just a little bit early. Wide receiver is an underrated position to go after. I mean, I do think that especially, after JSN, it gets a little convoluted. I know that we kind of want Torrey Horton to end up taking a big step, but that is a relatively large ask for where he was taken, and I want to root for him. But, I do like the idea of going edge for this team, and there's a lot of good options. Let's take out defensive interior. You got LT Overton, who can end up playing pretty much anywhere. You can use him on the inside or over, you can literally just push him wherever you want, even some reps on the inside. And I think that has its own value. David Bailey is the other one who I just took recently this week. And this guy's fantastic. I mean, right now, one of the best players in the entire country. It's going to be kind of hard to say no to either of them. So you can feel free to say yes to either of them. But I'm going to do it to keep things fresh, and also because you guys you're looking back on Boye Mafe, players who have a little bit more size than David Bailey. We're going to go after LT Overton, edge rusher out of Alabama. Again, 21.2% pass rush win rate is a really solid floor, 6'5", 280. Just needs to be a little bit more consistent, but that's the exact place where I want him, is with Mike McDonald. At number 16, we have the Chicago Bears, and a lot of good options here. I do think with Drew Aller available, there are some teams that would be in striking range that I feel would be comfortable making a move up here. The Rams getting aggressive twice is not off their menu. They always get ballsy in situations like this. And, King Poles always likes to get aggressive with his trades. So honestly, I could see the Rams, as they continue trying to rebuild, get a little bit aggressive here, but it is a little bit long range of a trade. I would say that I'm not going to be pushing it for that much, because we do have Dante Moore that I feel very comfortable for the Rams there in the second if we want to. But regardless, at number 16, I think we're going to go old but gold here. We're going to go after Keldrick Falk, edge rusher out of Auburn. You could talk about offensive tackle here and just end up moving Trapilo, but Keldrick Falk's going to be the option. Perfect edge for why am I forgetting his name? I keep wanting to say Brandon Staley when I'm thinking of Dennis Allen, but Keldrick Falk, the option there for the Bears. At number 17 for the Arizona Cardinals, a lot of good choices for us to choose from, but I mean, ultimately, the areas they need improvement the most: linebacker, not taking one at 17, right tackle, which, again, we honestly could trade with the Bears if we wanted to. That would not be the worst thing. Trading to get Trapilo for a third, I've never done that. But for the Bears, I'll end up taking a tackle for them in the second round anyways. Let's do that. We're actually going to we're going to trade with the Bears. We're going to get Trapilo, which I already ended up looking at this before. They literally don't have Trapilo in here. I don't know what the hell is going on, but we're just going to use that future 7 as a placeholder. We're going to send a third for Ozzy Trapilo. You can end up tossing in something else, but it's not going to affect the mock draft. So we end up getting our right tackle there because he's just a failure at left tackle because you don't always have, like, guys do not work right to left tackle all the time. You have to be so lucky for that to work. Like, just, I don't understand why people get so arrogant. So we got the right tackle situation solved. Wide receiver is where my head is next. And yes, there's guys you could try to get value wise down the board, but I'm just going to go after players who I think deserve to be in the first round. And Mekhi Lemon is one of them. This guy has been a top 3 wide receiver for me the entire year for a lot of people I trust and know. And this guy has just been lighting it up this year, already at 311 yards through 3 games. One of the most impossible to cover players in the country. At 18 for the Pittsburgh Steelers, this is a quick and easy one. We're going Drew Aller, quarterback out of Penn State. The draft's in Pittsburgh. Aller, Penn State quarterback. It makes sense. So we'll see if he continues. Like, we're going to see him versus like legit talent coming up soon. Like, people are roasting his QBR, his QB rating. It is what it is, man. I mean, people, you can't just look at the stat box. I mean, at the same time, I don't really know why Aller would throw a pick versus Nevada, FIU, Vandy, or Villanova, excuse me. But, sometimes you get a little bit too relaxed and then you get lulled to sleep and do something stupid. We'll see what he does versus good competition. At number 19 for the Minnesota Vikings, this one's quick and easy for me. It's Dylan Thieneman all day. I mean, I think there's a little bit of a false urgency to go after safety for the Vikings, like the first rounds, no matter what. But I just think the value is perfect, and he's a player who's in my top 10. The value lines up. It makes sense. We're going to go with it. At 20 for the Houston Texans, I'm so used to going Jeremiah Love. I need to change it up, though, for both you guys as well as myself. I'm going Isaiah World, tackle out of Oregon. He has left and right tackle experience as well throughout his history, so you end up at least having some cross-training that's already happened, and you can end up continuing to work with him as he continues to polish. At 21 for the Buccaneers, you guys know where I'm going. If David Bailey's here, I'm taking him. I know it's a little bit boring, but this is one of the best players in the entire country. He deserves to get love. A former linebacker pretty much as well for Stanford, and he's continued to add weight to his frame, and he's gotten better and better. At 22 for the Denver Broncos, this is where I think I end up, there's just not really, Jeremiah Love would be the player to move up for. And to be fair, we'll see how Krosky Merritt does with a much larger workload, but I do think a team like the Commanders would be stupid to pass on Jeremiah Love. So is there a team that could end up using Love? I mean, honestly, you could go in division, but I would never do that if I'm the Broncos. I would never weaponize the Chiefs with Jeremiah Love. Not really a team. You could talk about the Cowboys trying to get aggressive, but moving up for a running back is just a stupid idea if you have a lot of other positions to go after. So I feel very uncomfortable the idea of making some moves here that would end up like shaking things up too much. Like for the Broncos, wide receiver has always been an underrated position for me to target. Denzel Boston would be super fun, kind of being a Vele aspect in there. Also adding a deep threat ability that they don't utilize enough. Carnell Tate, just the definition of consistency on this team. And we were kind of clamoring for Emeka Egbuka for the Broncos. Would not be a bad idea. And honestly, Carnell has done so much in terms of developing as a blocker. Let's do it. Let's do it. Feel free to give me feedback on that as well. I love when you guys end up giving me honest feedback. I make videos criticizing other people's stuff. I am more than willing to receive said criticism. At number 23 for the Commanders is TJ Parker, Jeremiah Love. And Krosky Merritt does put a little bit of a wrench in this because in round 2, the edge room really does drop off. So, like, it's Denis or TJ. We'll see. Like, Danny, the problem with him is he had a red-hot start versus Nevada, and he still has only 17% pass rush win rate versus bumps. Red-hot start, scary, kind of like polished right now. Now, to be fair, TJ Parker, he has nothing that you should get excited about at the moment, except for the run stop ability. So it really is dependent on like which one do you think will be better in the best situation. And I think TJ Parker would be better. And they're just pretty much identical on my board. So TJ Parker will be the selection there. For the Rams at 24, they moved up and got Mansour Delane. I'm going to see if maybe I could try to move back here and end up trying to snipe somebody else. But With the Chargers probably going Danny Dennis Sutton, I'm going to look at maybe a team to try to jump up into this range. I'm not going to arm a team that I would end up facing very often, but I might try to fleece the Chiefs, who need to go after some high end edge rushing. So we're going to arm the Chiefs because they also do have some future concerns. And the Rams ended up giving pick 88. I'm gonna try to potentially. You could try to fleece the Chiefs. I do think pick 116 is gonna be adequate though, so we'll end up getting a pick back, and the Chiefs move up and they end up selecting Danny Dennis Sutton. There's some big concerns there in terms of the lack of production after week 1, but we're in week number 4 technically. We just passed week 3. Number 25 for the Los Angeles Chargers. Could have went Jeremiah Love, by the way, but with the edge room shrinking a ton, definitely felt like a position that needed to be targeted. 25 for the Los Angeles Chargers. Again, just got jumped by an in-division rival for the edge rusher that I really wanted to take, which again, I do this to myself. I'm not thinking like, what do I do if I'm the Chargers and then end up having a team jump me? Like, I'm not really thinking about trying to piece together the multiple picks down the line, because first off, that's not super fun for me. But secondly, and more importantly, like if you're sitting in the draft room, you don't know something's coming. So you can't plan in the moment. And I'm not going to have something that's like pre-concocted in my mind. I don't think that's really the best way to handle things. But regardless, the Chargers receiving core has done a pretty damn solid job. Quentin Johnson finally catching some passes. But I'm going to do this. You ended up being screwed over by a team that is in your own division. You're not going to screw over a team that's in your own division, but you're going to screw over another competitor by going after the top rated center in the class by most people, Connor Lew. And one of the few that I do think ends up deserving a first round grade. At number 26 for the San Francisco 49ers, like the quick thing to go after is that tackle spot. And, you can talk about Chaplin as the dark horse pick here in the first. Caden Green, if you want to develop him, but I think the Niners want to compete as well. Now, if you can go crazy and go Jeremiah Love, and it's just like, oh my God, hello. Like, shit's going to go crazy if you do that, right? But interior offensive line wise, not really a guy who I'm going to toss into the fire here. Huge fan of Lyndon Cooper, Tomas Rimac, love him to death too. Like Josh Thompson, got to give him some love. But I just don't think that there's a guard that I would end up taking here. Tight end, I don't think the value is here. Honestly, I just don't think the value is here in general. Like, I could try to go after some defensive interior value for the Niners. Like, again, Caleb Banks would be great. The problem is he has a lot of there's an injury red flag that he needs to deal with right now. And that ends up knocking players down. To me, I'm looking at Dom Orange and somebody that people just do not want to talk about. And I'm going to blame PFF and a lot of boards for this. Lee Hunter, 6'4", 325. He's up to 330. Even better. But this guy has been on a tear. I mean, first off, getting better every week. And technically, the competition's gotten better every week. We're talking about 16% pass rush win rate and an 18% run stop rate. I don't like those numbers really, but since they end up boosting my narrative, I'm going to do it. Lee Hunter is just dynamic from the interior. And I want to be able to give this player as much love as possible. I'm going to take him in the first round, and so I'm going to end up taking him here. Lee Hunter is right now at number 32. I have it at 33. I ended up fucking that up. 32 on my board. There you go. And again, players are getting updated, moved up, moved down. You can see where John Mateer ended up being on my board. Number 27, Detroit Lions. We ended up, of course, wanting to probably target Danny Dennis Sutton if possible. Did not happen. Jeremiah Love would be fun, but not going to be something that's realistic. Looking at the edge rushers available, I don't see anybody worth that first round pick based on their play right now. Like, again, I'm giving a shout out to Akeem Mesidor, someone that's like a third round pick that we're going to target because he's just older. But linebacker's a good, I'm pretty sure Anzo's up for a contract. So, looking at right now, Sonny Styles feels very comfortable for me. Center as well, but I just don't think outside of Connor Lew, we're going to see a center go in the first round. Just hard to see that. Sonny Styles has just been reliable. You just can't go wrong with him. Arvell Reese, I'm going to assume Arvell ends up returning. Not many linebackers play for 1 year and then end up coming out because NFL doesn't value linebackers as much. But regardless, Sonny Styles is the selection there. For the Rams at 28, this is going to be Dante Moore, quarterback out of Oregon. This dude's been on a meteoric rise. and he's done a fantastic job. I think he needs to still work on the timing, which he is young. That is just what's going to happen. And of course, PFF doesn't have it. So we're going to end up giving some love to Tyler Van Dyke, quarterback out of SMU, as a placeholder. And again, a lot of these players deserve or need to have updated grades, but I do want to give what's most up to date. Looking at where the quarterbacks are, and again, you can see how high Garrett Nussmeier shot up. He was somebody who I did not believe in. Dante Moore is at number 76 on my board. And for a quarterback, that's a really good spot with the arm talent he has, with the mobility he possesses. Like, as a true freshman, he showed out at UCLA. Something happened where it wasn't just clicking, and it looks like it's clicking now at Oregon. If that's the case, I'm going to trust Sean McVay to get the most out of him. There's Devin Dampier. I think that's how you say it. We're going to be able to see him again this week going up against Texas Tech. But, another name to watch potentially for that day 2 range. And number 39 for the Philadelphia Eagles. I've always been the type that wants to trade for that boundary corner too. But with guys like Avion Terrell here, Jermod McCoy, the problem with Jermod is the health. Like, that's the question. But I'm going to go after Keith Abney here. There's a lot of his game that I really like outside of the vertical speed ability, which I think he's still going to be like high 4.4, low 4.5, which is perfectly fine. This is going to be a guy who is extremely aggressive, really good at the catch point. And, he is tied right there with Mansour Delane for me. So I'm going to go after a strong boundary corner here for the Philadelphia Eagles at 29. At number 30 for the Baltimore Ravens, again, it feels kind of stupid to continue just going after best player available for them, but that's just how they work. And that's Avion Terrell, because it matches perfectly with what they have with Jair Alexander right now. So it's pretty clear they see a need, and they end up filling it with a veteran short term. We're going to fill it long term with Avion Terrell. At 31 for the Dallas Cowboys, took Christian Miller early in the first. And technically speaking, we could have had Parker, Dennis Sutton, David Bailey. Like, a lot of edge rushers went. And so we're going to pivot away from that because Jeremiah Love is here, and that's where I feel comfortable taking him for the Dallas Cowboys to be a true lead back there. Javonte Williams is looking like a monster statistically, but you can end up having Jeremiah Love be a good complement as a 1-2 punch. And at 32 for the Buffalo Bills, I'm thinking of potentially going linebacker for them. The problem is, the linebacker I would take in the first based on size is Sonny Styles. The player I would love is Kyle Lewis out of Pittsburgh. I just can't see him being taken in the first, and I don't want to give you guys something that reflects a mock draft that's like impossible. It's not impossible for Kyle to go in the first, but it feels near impossible, and I don't want to give you guys a draft like that. So I'm looking at Big Dom Orange to be a plug in the middle who also has some good flexibility. Like, looking at the teams that are in range, the Titans, we ended up going after Ruben Bain. Is there any weapon right now that we could end up trying to trade up for the Titans? A lot. The problem with, if I end up wanting to stay put with the Titans, I look for receiver with pretty much all of the next teams. That's why I'm thinking of making a move up here. And the player I'd probably go for is Casey Concepcion. Like, he is somebody who really has risen to... He's number 22 on my board, as a matter of fact. Denzel Boston, need to get some more all-22 on him. I'm praying to God that we can. Of course, these teams are not really ones that garner said attention. But Denzel Boston, definitely one you could end up trying to throw into the mix. Chris Bell, fantastic player. I would end up right now, though, like putting a little bit more work or a little bit more weight on KC because he's made a huge bounce back from 2024. Like, he was a baller in 2023. Ended up like really having a tough year last year, and he's back. And he's not even on a great team. He's just making dudes look silly. So for the Bills, I feel very happy with making this move as well. The Titans, you don't have a ton of draft capital. And if I'm the Bills, I have enough this year to where I want to leverage future capital. I'm going to go for a future third right here. And then you could even try to like toss in like a pick 245. Do your own math. We'll end up, this is going to be like a big thing in the past as of next week. So if you don't like that trade value, by all means say it. But we're going to end up going with the Tennessee Titans in a big move up to select Kevin Casey Concepcion, wide receiver out of Texas A&M. Again, huge rise for this guy. He's done such a fantastic job, and I want to reward him for it. And, skill set wise, he pairs up well with Io Maynor, with DK, and you also get that returning aspect that I love, that you don't have to put some other players at risk. So let me know what you guys think. Thank you guys so much again for supporting. Stay tuned tomorrow for rounds 2 and 3. I'll see you later.